So a go-to bait for me for a long time, especially in fall and spring fishing, is the Yo-Zuri Rattl'n Vibe. A Rattl'n Vibe is the perfect bait for so many different situations. If fish are eating bait fish, obviously a bait fish profile bait like a Rattl'n Vibe is awesome, but also like the red crawl colors are great for when fish are eating crawfish. My favorite technique for Rattl'n Vibes is obviously to throw in grass. It's one of the most effective baits for fishing grass because what the nature of the bait, it's a sinking bait. So when you come to grass, and whether that grass tops out 2-foot below surface or 10-foot below surface on some lakes, you can fish a Rattl'n Vibe any way you want to get it to tick the top of that grass. That's why it's such an effective bait in grass because of that. Is if you put heavier line, you can also vary that even more. But I like to reel the bait where it gets down and hits the grass. You always want your bait to touch grass when you're fishing it, but not get mired up in it. If you're getting your bait mired up, you're either fishing it too slow or you need to go to heavier line to keep the bait up out of it more.
The Rattl'n Vibe has been around for a long time and it's a proven fish catcher. You know, anytime I find myself in the fall, spring, even in the summertime, it's not just strictly a wintertime bait. Even in the summertime, if I find them pushing bait somewhere, the Rattl'n Vibe is a good bait to be able to capitalize on that when they're feeding on bait fish. For me, this time of year, I'm back here on a flat. There's some fish pushing some bait around. So I've got my Vibe out and I'm just casting around trying to keep up with these fish and pick them off as when they're showing themselves coming up on this bait. But one thing that I really like about the Rattl'n Vibe is the different sizes. So it allows you to fine tune the depth that you want it. You know, if you get around grass, snapping that thing out of the top of the grass creates a good reaction strike. For me, I typically start with a 7.5-foot cranking rod. This is a Phoenix X13. I like the cranking rod for the softer tip because this is a crankbait. So that allows me, when I get those fish on, to keep them buttoned up. I like a little bit stiffer rod, just so if those fish bury up in the grass, I'm able to get them out of there. But I also pair that with either a 6.3 or a 7 1-to-1 reel, depending on how much I'm moving around, how much I need to try to keep up with it if I'm moving straight at it. And then, so I've got the 7.5-foot rod, the 6.3 or 7-1 reel, and I'm gonna pair that with Yo-Zuri 14 or 20-pound Yo-Zuri T7, depending on how deep I want that bait to run and what kind of structure I'm fishing around.
Yo-Zuri just recently came out with a One Knock Rattl'n Vibe. And the cool thing about having this One Knock in the lineup now is just gives a different variation to the already productive Rattl'n Vibe. What One Knock means is it actually has just one large bead inside of it. The Rattl'n Vibe has multiple. It's kind of a higher pitched, more aggressive rattle. A One Knock is designed to be kind of a slower thud rattle. It's a deeper noise and it's not as aggressive as the traditional Rattl'n Vibe. And what I like about this is, I think the applications when it can be more effective is I'll always experiment with both, have both tied on and play with both of them. But when you're having fish kind of short strike the Rattl'n Vibe or maybe the One Knock, you can alternate back and forth between the two. Some days the fish might like that more aggressive, louder noise, and some days they might like the slower One Knock noise. Just gives you a different bait, the same bait, same technique, but a different noise to show those fish on maybe on highly pressured waters, or just to get the fish to take that bait better. To give your lipless crankbait arsenal that 1-2 punch, get you some traditional Rattl'n Vibes, but also the One Knocker Rattl'n Vibe.